Hi, and welcome to Watch It Played. My name is Rodney Smith, and in this video, we're going to learn the 1 to 3 player game, Destinies, designed by Michal Gobielski and Filip Milinsky, and published by Lucky Duck Games, who helped sponsor this video. The prophecies spoke of an angel of death, and frankly, the plagues, ravenous wolves, wars, pestilence, and concerning smells coming from the neighbor's barn suggest this prophecy might actually be true. But even in the worst of times, every person has a destiny to fulfill, and it's up to you to fulfill yours. So join me at the table, and let's learn how to play. Now, I don't normally show the inside of the box in one of these videos, but I thought this one was just so expertly designed, I wanted to give it a little spotlight because not only is there space for everything, but there are lids and enclosures to ensure that once everything is stored inside, everything will actually stay in the spots intended for them. I should also quickly show you all the miniatures that come in the box because most of these we won't have a reason to show during the tutorial video, but there's a lot of them here and they certainly come in varying sizes. To set up, you'll first need to download the free app from Apple, Google Play, or Steam onto a device with a camera. And once you have the app, you won't need an internet connection during gameplay. Keep in mind, the app might be updated over time, so what I show you in this video might be a little different from what you see, but you should have no trouble following along either way. After opening the app, select the box set that you have. We'll be setting up a scenario from the core box, but if you have an expansion, you should pick the related one instead. From the list of scenarios, pick the one that you want to play, and for your first game, they recommend Nature of the Beast, which is a standalone scenario. The other 4 make up a campaign that should be played one after the other in order. The 4 scenarios that make up the campaign tell an ongoing story, and while it is recommended that you play with the same group, you don't have to, because each scenario still plays independently. Even the characters that you play as will change each time. It's just more that by playing them together, you'll have a shared appreciation of the story and the changing world that you're all playing in. Now, each time you play the same scenario, it will remain the same. They don't change. However, as you'll never be able to explore everything in a single scenario visit, it means that they'll remain replayable as long as you make different choices each time you revisit them. The main piece of advice they offer when replaying is to ensure that everyone else at the table has played the scenario before as well, so no one has an unfair advantage. After picking your scenario and selecting play here, you'll be asked to choose a game mode. If you've been playing previously, you'll have the option to resume your game here, but to start fresh, pick one of the options on the left. We'll select a normal game and discuss the other modes later. You'll now be read an introduction, and you can turn the audio on and off right here. When you're ready to move on, you select OK, and then each player picks one of the 3 characters here, or they can be assigned randomly. We'll set up a 2-player game using the Witch and the Huntsman. You'll tap OK, and then you'll be told how to set up the characters one by one, and the basics of this are the same for every player. First, collect one of these player boards, 2 of these white main dice, and 3 of these purple effort dice. Set the main dice into what is known as your personal supply area here, and the effort dice you just leave outside of it. Also create a general supply within reach of the players for these coins, experience tokens, points of interest markers, and pairs of what are known as trade stack tokens. Now I have these in some game trays that I own, and if you'd like to pick up some of your own, you'll find a link in the description below. Next though, each player takes 1 coin and adds it to their personal supply. Now look at this bottom area of your board. Each row represents one of your 3 skills: intelligence, dexterity, and power. Find these skill markers and set 1 into each of the numbered spaces as shown within the app for your character. For example, the Witch will have 1 set into spaces 4, 7, 11, and 12 of the intelligence skill. And then I do the same for the numbers showing in her dexterity and power skill rows. Now set up this large deck of items that you can identify by their backs, showing the item symbol here. These are also numbered in the corner, and you'll want to keep them in order. We're told that our Witch starts with a talisman. This shows the item symbol and the value of the card we need to find in the deck. This is showing a 6, so we'll go through the deck, finding one of the cards labeled as a 6, which is a talisman. Items your character is carrying are put into any one of these 5 free slots here at the bottom of your board. Now collect the Destiny card showing your character's portrait and the miniature that matches the one showing in the app. Never let the other players read the back of your Destiny card, but read yours now. To avoid spoilers, I'm not going to show you what these say, but we'll talk more about your Destiny later. To keep your Destiny information a secret, put it with this side face up on your board here, but you can always examine the underside of your own Destiny anytime you want. After this player has finished setting up their character, they'll tap OK, and now the next player sets up their character as well. Once you're done, you'll be asked to confirm that everyone is ready. If so, you'll then be instructed to start setting up the area of the world you'll be exploring, and to do this, you'll need to collect these map tiles. These are also numbered in the corner, and you'll want to keep them in order. They also have an explored side, which is colorful, and a washed out unexplored side, and you'll keep the unexplored side face up in this stack. When you see this symbol in the app, it's referring to a map tile, so we would now take the one that's labeled as number 2 and set it face up. Each player then sets the figure for their character anywhere on it. Also be sure to read any information you see in the app out loud to the players. With this tile on the board, we now tap OK, and now we're given some more information. When you see this symbol, it represents a point of interest. This will either be a token or a miniature like we see here. In this case, we find the matching miniature and put it on here to represent the church. Then after tapping OK again, we're told to add tile 23 face down here. And this will continue, describing and directing us to add other tiles to the table in various places, which I've done here as well. As you progress through the setup, eventually you'll get to this screen informing you that it's day 1 of the scenario, and it will tell you who gets to go first. In this case, it'll be the witch. And that's the setup. In Destinies, each player has 2 personal destinies found on the back of their Destiny card that they can be pursuing. You can work on both if you like, but as soon as you finish just one of them, you'll then be guided to start a finale. The final steps of fulfilling your ultimate destiny. Complete your ultimate destiny first, and you win. So players are not really working together, but they're also not working against each other. Not really. Nothing another player does will block you from completing your own goals, but the winner is the one who accomplishes their goals first. The game is played over a series of turns, starting with the player indicated in the app, which as we saw was the witch. The person taking their turn is known as the active player, and on your turn, you'll perform 3 steps, starting with the start of the turn step. You'll begin by refreshing 1 effort die, which the app reminds you of here. Effort dice off of your board are considered exhausted, so to refresh one, you move it to the personal supply area here of your board. And if all 3 of your dice were already in your supply, you'd just ignore this instruction. And this is true anytime the app tells you to do something. You simply follow its instructions to the best of your ability and ignore anything you can't do. Either way, you now tap OK. During this step, it's also normal for various events to occur. Now, there aren't any that need to be resolved on the first day of this scenario, but I'll skip ahead to the next day to show you what this might look like. Here we are at the start of the second day, and after refreshing a die, we're informed of a new development in the world. A bishop has come to town. All narrative events and information in the app is public. The active player should always read out any information they're given on screen, even as it relates to their personal destiny. In this case, we're told to replace the church point of interest figure with the bishop, which we'd collect from the box. But this is not the second day, so let me just reset things back. Okay, after the start of the turn has been resolved, it's now the movement step. Here, the active player can choose any tile up to 2 spaces away from their current one. And I set out a couple of extra tiles to help with this illustration. Now, when moving, you can only go up, down, left, or right. Never diagonally. So I couldn't move directly to here. Although if I moved 2 spaces, I could go 1, 2 to get here. As you move along your chosen path, if you enter an unexplored tile, you must stop and your move ends there. You then click on the unexplored tile in the app, confirm your intention to move, and follow its instructions. It will usually tell you to flip the chosen tile over to its explored side, and then you draw and place new unexplored tiles around it that can be traveled to in later turns. On the revealed tile, you'll likely be told to add points of interest, this time as tokens that represent a horse in peril and a holy spring. You may also get some additional information about what is happening here, and in this case, you're told to refresh one of your effort dice. You then place your figure anywhere on the tile you traveled to if you haven't already. You don't have to move on your turn, or if you do move, you might go to a tile that was already face up. But whether new or revealed previously, you now move to the final step of your turn, visiting a point of interest. Again, this is optional, but you'll usually want to do this as it's how you'll advance towards your destiny. Points of interest will either be labeled figures like the church here, or labeled tokens. Now, for the sake of this example, let's pretend we hadn't moved this turn and we're still here and chose the church. To do this, you still select that point of interest in the app and confirm that it's what you want to do. Again, you'll have text to read out to the table, and usually you'll be presented with a series of options. Here we have 4. You can choose any or all of the options available in any order, but each can only be chosen once. As you pick and resolve them, they'll leave the screen, though they may be available again the next time you or somebody else visits this point of interest. Now, sometimes what you choose will add new options to the list, close off other ones, or even force you to leave the point of interest and just end your turn. Now, there are a variety of different types of options, so let's go through each of them now. This symbol represents an interaction. When you select it, it will just present the consequences, whatever they might be. So let's try the pray interaction. Here, it gives us some story information we'd read out loud, and then it tells the player to refresh all of their effort dice. With that done, now we can move on to another option. And again, these can be performed in any order. So if we wanted to do this interaction next, to ask the priest what's bothering him, we could. Here we get some more story, and then after we have a new option to pick from in the list that wasn't there before. Now, anytime you see a skill symbol at the very start of an option, it means that picking that option will require a test in the related skill. You won't know exactly how difficult the test is, but you might be able to get a sense of it from the description. For example, if the test is required to throw a rock into a barn, that's probably easier than performing a test where you have to shoot an arrow into a bullseye. Let's try to steal some money from the offering box. This screen means it's time to perform a dexterity test, as you're reminded of here. When taking a test, you roll dice, and this always includes your 2 main dice to use in every test, but you may also choose to include any number of effort dice from this area of your personal supply. I'll choose 2 of them, leaving the other for a future test. The white main dice have values like this on their sides, and the purple effort dice look like this. And when you have all the ones you want to use, you roll them. Next, total all the values you see on the dice you rolled, ignoring this symbol for now. Here we have a total of 4 plus 3 plus 2, or 9. You now go to that position on the related skill and count every skill marker on that space or to the left of it. Each one of these counts as 1 success. So this means we have 2. The symbol that we rolled on this die also counts as an automatic success, so we add this to the others that we have, meaning we gained 3 successes in total. You now add these into the app here, where it tells you that you succeed, but feel a little guilty. You also gain 1 gold, which is represented by this symbol, and you take that gold from the general supply and add it to your own. Any effort dice that you used are now exhausted, but your main dice return to here where they can be used in your next test. Also note that the app had said we felt guilty for stealing the gold. The world in this game remembers your choices and changes how it interacts with you based on those choices. Good or evil, it's up to you, and the more you follow a particular path, the more it might benefit you. Now, sometimes the results of a test will show a skill marker, like this, with a skill symbol attached to it, and then an arrow pointing either to the left or right. If it's pointing to the right, like we see here, it means you've lost some of your ability in that skill. For each right arrow, pick any marker from the related row and then move it one space in that direction. Just keep in mind, you can never have two markers on the same space, so I couldn't have moved this one to here. If you ever have a loss or gain of more than 1 point within a skill, for example, this means you'd lose 2 in dexterity, you can move the same skill marker or divide the points as you like among the markers you have. If a gain or loss shows a skill marker but no specific skill symbol, you assign the adjustments to any combination of your 3 skills. Before moving on, I should also point out that sometimes the app will give you an experience point by showing this symbol, and that means that you collect one of these tokens from the supply. At any moment during your turn, except during the resolution of a test, you can spend experience tokens to upgrade your skills. For each point of experience you spend, returning it back to the supply, you move any combination of your skill markers a total of 2 spaces to the left, which means you can also pick just one and move it twice. The lower your skill markers are on the track, the easier it will be to roll a higher value than them, making it easier to gain successes in future tests. A test in the game will never need more than 6 successes, and when you're trying to decide how many you might really need, you can use this table from the rulebook as a guide. Again, you'll never really know how difficult the test is, but if it seems like it might be very difficult, then this table suggests you might want at least 4 successes. And that covers tests. So let's move on to another type of option you might encounter at a point of interest: scanning item cards. You started the game with 1 item, and many encounters can give you more, but sometimes an option will show this symbol, which involves scanning an item you're holding. So here I could ask the innkeeper about something I have, like this talisman. After selecting that option, your camera will come on, and then you just position the QR code of the item that you want to ask about in front of the camera, and then you press and hold on the button here. The app will then tell you if this resulted in something useful or not. Sometimes characters will ask you about an item, and if so, scanning it won't cause you to lose it. However, if they ask you for an item and you scan it, this represents handing it to them, and they might not always give it back. Likewise, some situations might come up that ask for the use of an item. Maybe you get the option to throw your sword into a deep pit. Chances are good, if you do, you won't get it back. Sometimes a situation shows a skill symbol and a scan option, which we see here if the huntsman wants to try to fight the wolf. They can now either perform a regular skill test using their power skill, or scan a weapon they might be holding, like this bow that they have. Oftentimes, using a scanned item results in an automatic success, like we just received here. But if you scanned an item that wouldn't really work for that situation, it could result in an automatic fail. You can get a sense of the ways an item can be used based on any item categories it has listed here. And items will usually have special abilities at the bottom of their cards as well, and these are categorized in one of 2 possible ways, either as an always effect or a discard effect. Always abilities means that you can take advantage of their effects as long as the item remains in your inventory. A discard effect means you can only use the ability once, and after you do, you must return it back to the box, but not back to the stack of items. This means that specific card is no longer available for this scenario, though there may be duplicates in the stack that you can still gain. At most, you can hold 5 items in your inventory. If you ever gain more than 5, then either immediately use the discard ability of an item you have to resolve its effect and return it to the box in order to make room, or instead, just abandon any excess items that you don't want. For example, maybe I'll abandon this sword in order to make room for this new rosary item that I just collected. When you abandon an item, place it near the map and set one of these trade stack markers on it. Then find and set the matching trade stack marker on the tile where you are. This represents where the items have been dropped. And from now on, any player who visits this tile may, as a completely free action, pick up any of the items in that stack and add it to their inventory. Once the stack is empty, you can then return the related markers back to the supply. Some items will say exactly when they can be used during a turn. If one doesn't, then you can use it at any moment during your turn. And if you're resolving several items at once, And the combination of their results is a bit ambiguous. Just pick the resolution that is most beneficial to that player. In addition to scanning item cards, sometimes an option will show a gold scanning symbol, which represents scanning your destiny. In this case, we'd be asking the innkeeper about it, and if they're feeling friendly towards us, they may provide hints on how best we can fulfill that destiny. Remember, you actually have 2 different destinies, so make sure you're scanning the code for the destiny that you want to ask about. Each of your 2 destinies is assigned its own color, yellow and purple, which you'll also find on the frame beside its QR code. Remember, all text in the app is public and should be read out loud for everyone to hear, even when you're asking about your destiny. The characters you interact with will usually answer those types of questions indirectly, which will help you, but won't give too much away to the other players. Moving on, sometimes when you interact with a point of interest, you might be asked to create a trade stack by gathering the specific items it lists. Then you set these on the table nearby and set a trade stack token on top of them, putting a matching trade stack token next to the point of interest that caused the stack to be created. This is a reminder that these are the items that are at this point of interest available to buy. And that's why you'll find this option now to look at the blacksmith's wares. This simply means that you can now use this trade stack, which allows you to buy any number of items here at a cost of gold coins equal to what is showing in their top corners. And you can also sell as many cards as you like by moving them to the stack from the ones you're holding, gaining their value in gold coins from the supply. Okay, this leaves us with one last option you might see, the Destiny icon. Once you've fulfilled the requirements of just one of your Destiny paths, you can then visit a specific point of interest, which will be hinted at on your Destiny card, where you will then find an option to trigger your finale. Now, the finale will be a series of events and final tests. And once you start your finale, you will not be able to go back to normal turns. Instead, on your turns, you'll continue to work through this series of events that will be more or less challenging depending on how prepared you are and what choices you made earlier. Now, we won't go over any of this here because that's something you should really discover when you play. And those are all the ways to interact with a point of interest. And once you're done, your turn is over, and you'll click the End Turn button here, confirm that you're finished, and then the app will tell you whose turn is next. And just remember, you must do the steps of a turn in order. For example, you can't interact with a point of interest and then move. Now, once all the players have taken a turn, the game will advance you to the next day and might have you change certain items on the board, so be sure to follow those instructions. And then you'll be told who will take the next turn. The game will continue like this until a player fulfills their destiny and wins. And don't worry if an opponent is on their finale and you aren't. You may still win because you might be more prepared for your finale when you finally encounter it and be able to complete it faster than they do, winning you the game. The game also comes with 2 solo modes. One is called Explorer, where there's no time pressure and you can simply explore the world as you like. However, in Challenger mode, you're on the clock and special events will make things more difficult. From experience, I can tell you it's likely you'll lose the scenario several times in this mode. But the idea is that each time you replay it, you get a little better and advance a little further in your search for the most optimal way to beat the scenario. This allows you to play it several times over, unlocking a little more of the story each time. There's also a 2 versus 2 Bound by Fate mode for 2 players to team up against 2 other players. But that mode requires an expansion that is not yet available at the time of this recording, so I'll leave that one for you to discover on your own. And that's everything you need to know to play Destinies. If you have any questions at all about anything you saw here, feel free to put them in the comments below and I'll gladly answer them as soon as I get a chance. You'll also find forums for discussion, pictures, other videos, and lots more over on the games page at Board Game Geek, and I'll put a link to that in the description below. And if you found this video helpful, please consider giving it a like, subscribing, and clicking that little bell icon so you get notification anytime we post a new video. But until next time, thanks for watching.